Hey guys, my name is Nicole Rice, and for the discussion this week, I chose the topic of nonprofit organizations. So first and foremost, why I chose this topic. I've lived a few different places in my life, and most recently, I lived in Charlotte, and there they have like a huge chapter in the Just Serve kind of service thing. So me and my family did a lot of work with nonprofit organizations through Just Serve, and so I learned a lot about nonprofits and kind of how they run and who runs them and kind of their goals and the reasoning behind it. So I wanted to research a little bit more about that for this week. Okay, so the first article that I found was from the Associated Press. It's called "The Chronicle of Philanthropy and the Conversation Joined to Jumpstart Coverage of the Nonprofit World." So kind of an overview of this article. Um, they're talking about getting more coverage of nonprofit organizations and why it's important to discuss what these nonprofits are doing and their goals and everything like that, and to help the public opinion and the public knowledge of nonprofit organizations. So they, like I said, they want to advance public awareness of the people and organizations that are aiming to solve some of the world's most pressing problems. So nonprofits are very important to social work and just in general because they are aiming to solve these pressing problems in the world. Um, and the foundations and donors and people that volunteer, they play crucial roles in the social justice movement. So this isn't just like volunteering and serving, but often they have larger goals in place, and these often involve the social justice movement. And this article talks a little bit about philanthropy and how this is coordinated with social work and with the nonprofit world. Um, and philanthropy can be anything from the quiet actions of individuals to large foundations with global reach. So, kind of nonprofits and philanthropy go together in terms of the fact that they apply to many different people and they can have large impact. And lastly, local nonprofit organizations are at risk of financial collapse with the current economic crises. So this was kind of talking about COVID and how that made it really difficult for nonprofit organizations. So that's kind of why why they thought it was important for more media coverage on nonprofits, so that more people can, know about them and know why they're important and everything like that. Okay, the next article that I found, it's called "Examining Collaboration Among Nonprofit Organizations for Social Responsibility Programs." Um, this was like a scholarly article, and it talks about how nonprofits collaborate with each other and why it's very important for them to work together because they do have the common goals of, the well-being of individuals and everything like that. Um, so this article talked about how collaborations between nonprofits are a valuable way to approach complex social problems. They list like a whole bunch of different nonprofits and how they had different goals, or they had different like methods, but they had the same goals. And for that reason, they were able to work together and like pool resources and everything like that. Um, it talked about how through collaboration, they aim to create social value for social responsibility programs that lead to positive social change. I never really thought about the fact that like nonprofit organizations were related to social work before, but reading this article like reminded me that lots of times they do have like goals that are related to social work and helping people in general. And so that's why I kind of like this point that talks a lot about social change and how they have a social responsibility through these programs. They also talked about how many nonprofit organizations share similar goals, which makes it possible for them to collaborate and to share resources. Um, this article talked a lot about the importance of resources and how when there's different profit organizations, they can have different types of resources and different levels of these resources. So that makes it really beneficial to collaborate so that they can share these different resources that they have. And lastly, talked about how partners are motivated by the increase of resources to develop the joint social initiatives. So like I said, the increase of resources by this collaboration is very important, and it's often one of the main reasons why these nonprofits find it important to collaborate and everything like that. When I read this article, I was reminded of a nonprofit that I worked with in Charlotte and how they would get shipments in different like collaborations with other nonprofits that we didn't know about, and it was very interesting to hear their perspective of how they work together, and they would like send certain things to them to do certain jobs for, and then they would send it back, and they would like just take turns doing different things and working to, like this slide says, to create positive social change. Okay, for the code of ethics for nonprofit organizations, I kind of came up with two. The first being service, because the goal of service is to pursue social change. And also it seeks sensitivity to and knowledge of oppression and diversity. I think obviously service is super important to nonprofit organizations, because a lot of the times nonprofits need like volunteers or people who are willing to do work with little compensation. And so I think it's important to realize that service has the goal of pursuing social change, but it's also a way to like teach people about oppression and diversity and why service is necessary to marginalized groups. The other code of ethics thing that I thought was related to nonprofit organizations was the importance of human relationships, just because there's relationships between people and how these relationships are a vehicle for social change. I think even the human relationships phrase can be applied like on a bigger scale to, different organizations like I talked about earlier, and how these organizations, work together and, achieve their common goals. And then also human relationships relationships with others. The goal of the ethics point is to strengthen relationships with others to enhance the well-being of everyone. I think I mentioned that earlier, that a lot of these nonprofit organizations have the goal of, having a better well-being for everyone, and, helping people have the best life that they can. Okay, now comparing and contrasting the two articles. On the left is the news article that I found from the Associated Press. And it focused more on the importance of raising public awareness of nonprofits. It didn't really speak much about, the goals and the importance of nonprofits directly. It talked more about why it was important to teach people about nonprofits and to, have more public awareness of them. It also spoke about different organizations that are taking part in the initiative to have more public and news, access to nonprofit organizations. On the other hand, the scholarly article focused more on the collaboration between nonprofit organizations. So not necessarily a collaboration with like news and media and everything like that, but just between different nonprofit organizations. It also talked about the monetary benefits of partnerships between nonprofits. Like I said, like pooling resources and pooling, monetary things, and it talked about the importance of that. It also emphasized the different levels of nonprofit organizations. Talked about how there were like nonprofit organizations at an individual level, and then like local and community, as well like state and federal, and then also like global outreach nonprofit organizations. So comparing the two articles, they both spoke about the importance of nonprofit organizations and how they affect individuals. They talked a lot about the common goals that most NPOs have and how they share values as well. And the first one talked about how it's important to teach people about those values and about the goals of nonprofit organizations, while the second article talked more about, how collaboration between these nonprofit organizations showed that many NPOs do have these common goals and values. I realized I didn't make a slide for my question, but my question is, how do you see the effects of social work on nonprofit organizations, and how do you see these two collaborating together? Kind of collaboration like the second article talked about, but how collaboration between social work and nonprofit organizations can benefit individuals and society. All right, and here are my sources. That is it for my presentation. Thank you guys for listening.